Hi. Good morning, everybody. So I'm in the middle of housework. Um, uh, yeah, and so I liked what I did yesterday. We started with George Washington's farewell address, understood modern consequences as he predicted and laid out perfectly in the um, 1789, whatever it was. George Washington's farewell address is on YouTube. If you haven't, that's how you want to start teaching your children American history. That's the preemption. You will understand more about what's going on in your own country against your rights if you start there. And in fact, you won't understand anything. You'll be under the propagandists' control if you do not start with George Washington's farewell address while learning American history. So I'm just getting to it because trafficking survivor. So just, 4.0 honors classes, trafficked in 2007 across state lines. And then as well as I was a toddler, but I'm talking to my teenage years for the point that I had the school I was at, Duluth East High School in Duluth, Minnesota, just gave me A's the following year because I had attempted suicide. And so I didn't actually get to take my American government class or American history. And then my aunt put me in a secular private school. Well, the traffickers, my whole family, put me in a private school, Santa Cruz Waldorf school, where they don't, they're mostly anti-American, very Nazi social propaganda. It's esoteric Christianity from the 1930s. The schools are international and the enclaves in America that have them. So Santa Cruz is a major one, Huntington Beach, and a bunch of other really disgusting, gross groups of adults who have sex around kids. So, but don't worry because they do really good art. They like live off of children for like moral excuses. Not all of them partake in the perverse nature of sexualizing children, but it was a part of the era that Waldorf schools come from to live in those notions along with education and then whatever secular purposes. So long-winded explanation of myself. um, and so anyway, so I liked, I'm switched to history major. I'll be doing that. And then likely independent party candidate, math minor, auditing the Federal Reserve. I'm going to be a part of my history degree at USD Vermilion, where I'll be going and seeing who else wants to join me in this full audit cleanup crew of the absolute disaster in Afghanistan, Iraq, and obviously World War II and Vietnam. And then the lesser crimes, World War I, because if everybody doesn't have a newspaper, how can you know what your federal government's doing abroad? So George Washington's farewell speech, that was homework yesterday, followed it up with 1836 Martin Van Buren. He explains the Union betrayal, your parents planning to steal your future in his tax speech. And as I'm doing my house chores, we'll get into my relative here. There were so many Coolidges. In my presentation of Death by Iodine, I'm just like getting my family tree era-wise, because obviously I'm going to need to hunt down the rest of these Nazis and socialists who intend to commit genocide for their secular desires, like they did have this whole time. And the ones who are involved in Operation Paperclip. And it's a part of my political stance that we need a domestic version of the Nuremberg trials for the absolute failures, tyranny, and domestic terrorism that came from Operation Paperclip in the 1940s. And a reminder for if you're new to my class, that was when no American could do advanced physics or chemistry. Again, the secularists had taken over in 1940. Jim Crow era, Democratic Party, KKK era. And so they chose to end the war with taking every capable of creating function, some sort of mechanic, or at least inflating interest in whatever they were working on. Nazi scientists brought them here, and we've never had a trial on it. We've never had an update, and we've never had a check and balance on those Nazi scientists we brought domestically to America in the 1940s. And that, I think, will be quite obvious to a lot of you who do a lot of your own independent study. So with that, more explanations of how you're ripped off and denied livelihood, and explaining these past 100 years. Sir Calvin Coolidge, president. I'm just being an asshole because I'm if you look at, let me explain why too, with the Coolidges. If you look at that part of my family tree, and it is in my link, I have a link for the death by iodine video for my death by iodine presentation. Had an ancestry of discovery and utilization and sale and pharmacy in iodine. It's part of my Mexican-Swedish ancestry, native Yucatanian. And what's weird about the Calvin Coolidge branch, because that comes up on my maternal side, like the Charles Crownholm, the first and second, and then Anne Merida, who Yucatan is the natives named after her for curing their goiters, as far as I know. And then I have to go down there to say, and then when do I see flames coming out of the desert? There's a little Spanish history there too, but we're not going to get into that because I already did. And I'm just making the point that it's weird. Like the Coolidges, every branch of them I have had like 15 kids. And it's weird how where they like connect. There's my new favorite comedian. I forget your name. I'm so sorry. But she did some incest comedy for the reality of the evolution of the populace of America. And she was like, my parents were cousins, puppy love, same litter. And let me kind of go deeper in history. You're going to get into this on your own, my viewers, students, 18 and up. The Catholic Church used to have a rule and an organizational practice that you could only, in the Catholic Church, Holy Roman Empire, not this secular, pedophilic, absolute domestic terrorist catastrophe that we currently have with the Catholic Church. But you could only be approved to marry within 7 or 8 relational generations of another person, because they had noticed trends and characteristics of when people would, like the famous Habsburgs, although that rule came way before them, where they would have marriage for power and control, not to as a unit serve God. And so that used to be a rule. And then you could argue like within 7, people would argue like within 5, because how genetics is so anomalistic and varied, and it confuses me still. I don't have too many clarifying words for it, but yeah. It's funny. And I thank you, Aletha Allen. So my one grandma that I know of who's still alive, she's a genealogist, and she had been a nurse in her career, and then a mother farmer, just natural mechanic, because she built her land up herself. Um, and I was just really fond of her today because, of course, you taught me a bit about me that made things make sense. So when she was making her awesome binders and doing her own research, as soon as the internet came out, she was a spy. She was Jane from World War II, and that was like the female spies were Janes. Some of them were coming back for revenge because American soldiers raped them when they were children in the various abroad wars that nobody domestically checked or balanced, audited, had a Nuremberg-like trial for. And that's the neglect of your grandparents, usually the people who came here post 1850, because they were cold, homeless, and starving in Europe as the aristocracy fell when America was rising. And so she, in one of her documentations for the first, in that family line, so my father's side, who came across and was looking to be American, they had, and this is, my grandpa would say, like, I had really lovely moments with my grandpa. He died while I was in the middle of being trafficked for the last time by my dad directly in 2011 and 12. I don't remember what part he died in. And then he would be very peculiar about, so like, like I'd talk to my grandpa every now and then, and he was hilarious, cold, numb man. And just also though, like wanting to, like, for his 100 great grandchildren, wanted to do everything he could with his life to protect their freedom as he knew it. And like the internet just came out, and like, they're farmers whose, great part of their future was stolen when the populace decided to ship all the wheat demand out to China in 1994, whatever it was, and he was really against Monsanto and the degradation of the wheat grain. And in fact, it was something he would watch. And we were watching it together once when like the amber of the wheat wasn't quite what it was earlier. And so I loved that moment with my grandpa because he thought of me as like a dumb whore child because I was like a kid who grew up in the 90s. So it's Britney Spears era. And he had a little bit of racism and then I had that, native Mexican part in me that he probably hated in my mom, again, because my mom took the socialist route with it. But I love that moment with him because he wouldn't, I could tell he wasn't up for conversation a lot of the time. And this is Bob Allen. His dad was Milo or was Aletha's dad. I don't have my genealogy up and I'm nowhere near memorizing it. But so we would sit in silence a lot together in the end of his life there. And one of them, when I was a teenager, this is before the most grotesque acts of torture by my traffickers and torturers up there, the domestic terrorists in northern Minnesota, Mackinac Iron Range, Minnesota. Don't be afraid. Oh, please go observe, take pictures, start your own binder in a real way. I mean that. Live film the audit videos, go just film any public space. It's fun to do, and they hate it because they like to think they got away with, this is our area and nobody else can come here. Let me grab my water. And so let me just get it out with my favorite memory. Affection is causes me fear because I would get trapped in false senses of security for the purposes of remaining in servitude to various people. So we're looking at the wheat field one day. This is at his house where Aletha still lives, and I hope she is alive because she would be a better witness, and I would like actually to hear what she had to say about it all. If she's alive and I'm alive long enough to do my court case and fund it, have stability and safety, and then I hope she, lives longer. So I'd love to call her as witness. Well, I will, and it would be, she's an absolute needed witness. So, but that's a witness who I wouldn't be like, she's the one I would want to see the most. And then I would also call Afton as a witness who was raped by the same Nazi, Scott Sauer, and the whole area allowed it to happen. And she's a really cool woman, my cousin. She then worked with sex assault survivors in the area and stayed in the area where she was tortured as a child by this massive gang of people. So it's Afton Nazars. I don't know if she's on social media or does speaks out about stuff. I know she really enjoys nature because she was, the first person to put me on the back of a horse, and she was always outside just doing stuff and very independently minded. But anyway, that's Afton Nazars. She's amazing. She probably got married, so I don't think that's her last name. But I would also like to call her to witness. You see how I'm just ignoring this memory that I'm fond of. So me and my grandpa are watching the wheat field one, and I want to say it's 2007, 2008, because it wasn't quite to the point where I was, where they were trying to kill me, my family, because I wouldn't do what they wanted me to put it shortly. And so we're watching the wheat field, and he's watching, he's staring as he did for decades onto his wheat field. Must have been nice, Grandpa. Must have been nice. And then I look at him like, do you notice a change in patina? And then he looks at me like, you notice that? And like, yeah. And the only other time we shared a moment like that is when, so they were torturing, the gang was trafficking me, domestic terrorist cell, and at large. So really both of them, left and right. And I go over there because they're trying to keep up appearances with my grandparents. Be like, oh no, she's a crazy drug addict. Even though I had and this is what I'm going to say to Aletha, did you know, this would be a question for Aletha. Did you know I had a 4.0 in 2007, all honors classes, 0-hour classes? Did you know that? Because then I was taken across state lines by Ethan, and my brother as well knew, active duty, had been an adult in full knowledge. So didn't you think it was odd that then I attempted suicide, shipped out to California, and came back like a literal savage animal? Didn't you think that odd? And which is what I would ask her because I want to know her answer. I can't predict it. And so we were in their living room while I was just over there, stabilized in between of being completely dehumanized. And my grandpa loved Jeopardy. And I loved just on pure instinct being able to get the answer right. Because that's like the fun of Jeopardy. And no, I wanted to impress my grandpa. I won't lie to you. And so the question was, what, or no, it's so military, how do they frame it? And it was like, whatever in the 1950s, what piece of military equipment was used for the first time in 1950 in the Korean War, which my grandpa fought in. And I have always been super American, have always wanted to develop and advance our military. And so obviously the helicopter has been a problem in a big way. Where's my different helicopters? Because obviously to have one function is a perverse and degraded weapon of war. And so I get it right. And so they're assuming I am like this drug addict who's choosing a life of, I'm a really beautiful, hot, smart young girl. And you know what I'm into? This meth addict my dad had me meet when I was 12, who has a swastika between his thumb and his pointer finger. Yeah, that makes sense. So it's like nostalgia for me from when I was 12. And so I'm just like, oh, helicopter, 1950. It's obviously the helicopter. And then, but my grandpa, though, because he didn't expect it, because to them, my brain is mush. I'm just a drug addict. And by the way, I had only really been into cannabis. Heroin doesn't have like an effect on me, which is Andy Stumpf. It's always so funny the few times you've said they would give me opiates and I would just, why bother? Just throw them away. Because heroin, it's like, it was just like similar to cannabis in its effect on me. And because I had been tortured, it's not, you know. And so they think my brain is mush. And I'm just like, oh no, like you guys are domestic terrorists. I'm the real American. And grandpa, you know what I'm saying? It's helicopter. And he perks up from what he was doing and looks at me. And I think that's when he knew like something was up. And I don't know if the gang drugged my grandparents, and they lived right in the epicenter of all of this huge gang network in Mackinac, Minnesota, Iron Range, Minnesota, and then Minnesota at large. So, and in my candidacy, I will stick to that obvious truth. Oh, Minnesota history. It's so good to get to know you. And yeah, so I like that. My grandma didn't seem to notice, but for her, because everything had been so normalized. And again, I'm pretty sure they were drugged because my mom had drugged me from the socialists from her upbringing in California and Hawaii. They would do these women as soon as it was pushed that, oh, you don't like your partner and you want to spite them, oh, just go kill your baby. What a lot of those women would do when they would self-abort in the areas you couldn't post 1960 in its most grotesque form, I would say actually post World War II, so 1940, when they would be self-aborting for a variety of reasons, most of them absolutely tyrannical. And so they would be self-aborting. A lot of women would dissect, isolate, play with the women who in the 40s were a part of the class in America that were with the scientists, the pharmaceutical companies, the medical fields. They would have access to instruments and tools. And so they would be developing bioweapons. You're welcome, George Bush. I told you, just give me a second. We'll go right through it again. Oh, you guys need another reminder. Never forget, never forget, never forget. And so they would make bioweapons domestically with their fetuses. And then that's how a lot of the secular stuff evolved, because they chose dehumanization and to make themselves feel better and powerful, in a bit of irony there. And so my mother was a part of that. Dana Abrahamson, currently teaching small children in Congdon was last I knew of. I did notify the principal. She doesn't care because a lot of them think it doesn't matter. That's the property of the mother, and that's feminism from the 1960s. So just wanted to share that memory of my grandpa, Bob Allen, and Aletha while I was thinking of you. And I didn't finish the point I was getting to. I will. I hope South Dakota is better than Minnesota. And I've been watching Governor Noem for a while, and I do believe it is. She's a proper American leader. And I know I brag about Dan Crenshaw, Governor Noem, and I'm excited to replace that admiration with you. And I'll come connect with my representatives when I get down there. And it will be interesting to live in a state that didn't allow China to take over in any way at all. And especially because I'm still getting my education. So I'm kind of interested because I did school in California, Minnesota, and now I'll be in the only state that doesn't allow Chinese business because you just did that executive order. And so I'm like, sick. Let's see the difference. And so Aletha, let me wrap it up because I have to get going. I'm so excited to see this next historical stay I'll be at. Historical Airbnb stays, Minnesota, North Dakota. Check it out. The people there, the good, innocent, true American people there, have preserved some American history that has just, it's repaired a place in my heart for how much it's been hurting. And it's just such an enjoyment for me to visually study things. And so get your historical Airbnb, Minnesota, North Dakota, Wisconsin vacation on this summer. Major cities are so, they're so over. Yeah, so Aletha had shared, and I don't have the album that you had created. I just kept the photo of Milo for it because of his military pin. And I was like, I will find every goddamn fucking answer. And so that on her side, so my paternal side, one of the sex job was to hunt the royalty because they didn't understand the country of England as Irish English people coming to form America in the 1700s. They didn't read, they didn't write, they read and they wrote a little bit, some of them very well. But the point is they didn't understand then world history at large. Not everybody would have a newspaper. Word of mouth really dominated. Natives all the time talk about our oral history. Africans in America right now do too. Blacks talk about, our oral history. Same with the Irish. You just think the English were like, dear servant, dear servant, I would like to tell you everything that I'm planning for your future, your children, and their children's children. Come here. No. And so they were hired to hunt the royalty. And that's my mother and my father's love story, because Captain Jocelyn had been on my mother's side, the various revolutionary captains, and they had come from England dissolving as a parliament and the VOC were taking over. And the further irony is that my grandma is second generation half Dutch and that her husband was this Irish English. And I'm pretty sure it was on Bob's side where they were sent to hunt. And then because of the meth gang, and they were doing meth, psychedelics, enjoying having power over people, not understanding how to read and write. My dad could not read and write. I had to read things for him. And when he wrote me from prison, the month after 9/11, when he was put in prison, I was like, oh, My dad's a toddler. I feel bad for him. And then I'm the one who helped him get Social Security and read his mail. So anyway, he couldn't read and write. And it's just, so when they would find meaning, try to find answers because of propaganda, by the time it hit the 60s and 70s, as our general populace, I think it's obvious enough to say that just like out of control, no adults in charge, where's our liberty? Did anybody read the Declaration of Independence in 1960? You didn't? Okay, we can see that. Well. So what they would, a lot of those, and my dad was born in the 70s, so like 70s, 80s, 90s. Well, they went their own way. Aletha, I'll leave you with that. All right. Here, understand what's happened starting now. Oh, excuse me. Very good. Okay, kids, agreeing with me. Yeah, it's very good. On purpose, with intent. It was difficult to comprehend. So, War of 1812, you would want to then preempt this speech in your studies for how you were ripped off, your future was stolen from you with the War of 1812. I will start it over for the people actually learning with me. Gross. Okay. Ick. Yeah, the bone mass was the first thing I noticed, buds, because I'm a little bit of German, so you can thank the German Americans for preserving the awareness that, oh, look, your bone mass is deteriorating generationally. Where the cow's at. The next I'm saying that, guys, because the video that popped up after was the Coolidge scholarship. Ew. Ew. Sarah Locke would say, where are my matches and what kind of paint is this? So let me give you what I mean to. We'll do the inoculation of George Washington's army. Not propaganda as much, but from the Institute of the Cincinnati, the American Revolution Institute, the inoculation of, if you want to teach your children right, they have their entire series on YouTube. You could just do homeschool, literally with what I'm curating for you if you want to be the most accurate, the most entitled to your rights. Enoch. If it comes up. Oh, YouTube doesn't want you having that. No, it's just that with the algorithm, if all of you are dumb and you're demanding being dumb, well, then YouTube is going to give you dumb. Well, it's just going to give you, I mean, you guys, sometimes the Chinese really do just do their best, the Chinese Americans. So, like, get off a Hun's dick, you know? And again, this is for kids. And I wish I didn't have to speak so crudely to be relevant. And here we are, the American Revolution Institute. Let me put this just in the chat if somebody drops in, because this is really, because those professors were given degrees to say, I read the Declaration and then I followed, and then I did, here's my paradise, blah, blah, blah. So I'm excited to meet other historians and completely dominate them in every way, shape, and form. No, you're wrong. Oh, you have a degree from Harvard or Yale? Well, you're wrong in this way, and you're welcome. Let's see if it's still up. Oh my God. And there's a guy in here. So like, that's what I'm saying. They have the best historians, not the propagandists. There's a guy in here who was doing history of uniform change in the time of 1776, and then talking about French and British, etc. Uniform changes. Just like the warfare of uniforms is, really fun to study. Okay, there we go. The Contagion of Liberty, the politics of smallpox in the American Revolution. This is your COVID-19 terrorist attack information that, oh, look, only 5,000 subscribers and 36 thumbs up. Well, don't want to protect your kids that much by the interest you're showing. So weird way for everybody else to be acting right now. Stephen Kinsell, you ruined me. You ruined me. Just ruined me. There it is, right there in the chat. And here it is, live on cue. Okay, this is going to be relevant later. I have to get going. I'm on a time frame, so I'll come back to this later in the evening or tomorrow. So we're going to go with the king. This is what is utmost with this news network. That's just like, it's the greatest itinerary of modern American history. Just, you know what I'm talking about. If you know me, viewers, you know what I'm talking about. Oh, Andy. Okay, which one is utmost? There's so many. This is gonna annoy me, so it'll help me move through my packing here. Your perspective dread I've ever dread. Sorry, my wife right now is probably gonna come from you. Convincing her to marry me instead. Hey Siri, set timer for 20 minutes. Not you, and that's decorative technology. Why would you have them treated in such a way?